Hey, it's James Lynch. There's a really big rumor going around as of last night regarding the future of Tom Aspinall in the UFC, and we're going to read this right here from Ruben Carter. It says, from my understanding, Tom Aspinall has not only vacated his title, but he's also been exiled from the UFC roster by mutual agreement. The UFC wanted him to vacate, and he said he will, but only if they release him from his contract so he can go and box. Make sure you bookmark this tweet and return when I'm proven right by Baldy, referring to Dana White. Now, before I go any further, let me just say that if this ends up being true, I will be the first one to come on here and say that Ruben Carter was right. But you guys know Ruben Carter. I've talked about him on my streams before. I've had Ruben Carter on here for an interview / debate that we've done. My first reading of this is not true whatsoever. Now, we get a follow-up tweet from Peter Carroll from Uncrowned. And if you guys don't know Peter, very well connected in the UK MMA scene, Ireland, UK, all that stuff. He says, this is not true. No one has contacted Tom Aspinall or his team about vacating his title or being exiled from the roster. Seems like that would be important in terms of a mutual agreement. We read some of the responses here as well. We've got UFC Roster Watch, who keeps track of sort of everything that's going on roster-wise with the UFC, saying false information. Tom Aspinall is still active on the UFC roster. And so you're seeing a lot of people going here, making their own comments. We'll read some of these later, but this got all the way to Josh Thompson, who actually made a video on this topic, taking it for face value. Let's hear what Josh has to say, and then I'll give you my thoughts in a second here.
The reports are out that the UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. And he said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, you know, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, you know, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones debacle, I guess you would call it. Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight division was the strongest it had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are carrying the sport of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC.
No, what's wild is this report is not confirmed yet. This is another reason why, and listen, I think Josh is a nice guy, but he does not understand how the media works, and this is another example of this. You're taking this from Ruben Carter, who I've said time and time again has gotten things wrong a lot of times. And the thing with Ruben is, like a lot of these guys that you see on social media and Twitter and everywhere else, is if they get something wrong, nothing happens. They don't work for anyone. So it just goes, you know, gets spread everywhere, and then we find out it's not true, and then there's no repercussions. Like if Ariel did this, he would get in a ton of shit because he's considered, you know, one of the premier journalists in the sport. If, you know, Mike Heck gets this wrong, Nolan King, whoever, they get in trouble for this. You can't just work for a company and make things up and not being able to back it up. Now, people make mistakes, but Ruben's made a lot of mistakes and they haven't end up coming to fruition. And, you know, like I said, if he's right, I will be the first one to come on here and make a video and give him full credit. But I don't think this is right. I think you're seeing from people like Peter, UFC Roster Watch, etc., that this is not even a thing. I don't know where he got this from. Like, I can understand because Ruben Carter obviously lives, you know, abroad, and maybe he has some sources, but Aspinall just got surgery the other day. And the thing that people keep losing sight of here, Aspinall fought at the end of last year, close to the end of last year, at the end of October here. So let's just say November basically was the last time he fought. It's February 13th, everyone. Like, what are we freaking out for about him stripping the title and all this different stuff? Let's give it some time. Where's the outrage for Khamzat Chimaev? He fought in August. He fought before Aspinall. I don't hear anyone calling for him to get his title taken away, right? There's a lot of hypocrisy going on in the UFC. And the reason that people are so much against Aspinall and want to see him get stripped is because he couldn't continue in the fight because of an eye poke. And there's still weirdos out there saying that, oh, he's faking the surgery and all these different things. It's like, come on, guys. But the thing that's so funny is that Thompson, again, is taking this at face value, and Ruben's the only one reporting it. Again, if he's right, then he will get his full credit, but I don't think he's right. Let's go through the series of events. Aspinall just a couple days ago mentioning he got the surgery. Looks like he's on the road to recovery. The reports coming out saying that he is going to make a recovery, all these different things. So why would the UFC all of a sudden, just as this is happening, saying, oh, well, now we're going to strip him and take things away? Now, I will say it is a bit weird right now. We don't know what's going on with Cyril Gahn. We don't know what's going on with Pereira. Pereira's sort of the X factor in this whole thing because there's been talk about him moving up and maybe fighting for the heavyweight title. That I will say is interesting, but that's like a lot of fighters. Look how many fights are not booked right now. Look how many fighters are out there that do not have fights booked. It's been a little bit weird. I don't know if that's because they're saving it for the White House or what the deal is, but I'd say out of the last 5 years, I don't remember a time when we have so little fights booked coming up with a bunch of fighters that are just waiting in the wings to get booked. So that's the only thing that would maybe think that they want to extend this, but I don't think this report's true. I think he's wrong. And again, if he gets it wrong, nothing happens, right? Again, we look at all the people that break news all the time. A lot of them are not wrong. A lot of them are very legit. And if they are wrong, they'll be the first to come out and say they're wrong. I don't ever hear Ruben or people like him come out and say if they are wrong, that they will admit when they're wrong. They never do it. Or they'll say something, oh, well, it didn't come to fruition. Someone turned down the fight or whatever. Like that's usually what happens with the fight announcements and stuff. But yeah, I don't believe this. If I'm telling you right now, just from what I've heard, what I've seen, I even checked in with some people over the last little bit. I have not seen anything that suggests that Tom Aspinall has not only, here's the other thing, like we just talked about, or Thompson just talked about it there. They got rid of Almeida. They're not replacing these heavyweights. Let's say this was true and Aspinall, they did decide him to part ways with them. What are you going to do with the division? They're not signing anyone. So it just doesn't make sense either. Like if they're worried about Aspinall not coming back anytime soon, why would they not just do an interim title like they did with Patty and Gaethje? Or why would they not, like, you know what I mean? Like they're saying like, oh, Tom has to vacate. Why would Tom have to vacate? That doesn't make any sense. It's again, he fought end of October. Why does he need to vacate unless he's been given news to the UFC? Like I said, like I talked about this in the other video, like with Yuri and with Jamal Hill, when they had to vacate their titles, they knew their injury was going to take him out an extended period of time. Shavkat Rakhmonov lets the UFC know he's going to be out for a long time. Take me out of, he didn't say take me out of the rankings, but they took him out of the rankings because they know he's going to be out for a while. We don't know how long Aspinall is going to be out, to my knowledge. And Peter, in this tweet, there's no suggestion from him, or obviously he got in touch with Aspinall's team. There's been no indication that Aspinall is going to be out for an extended period of time. Again, if we're getting close to that October date and you want to talk about the heavyweight division and nothing's happening, I understand maybe doing a vacant title then, but it's February 13th. Why is there such a rush to get the title done? So that's what I mean. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this isn't a situation where Aspinall's been out. He's been out a bit, but he hasn't been out that long in the grand scheme of things. I think a lot of fans forget that. They're just impatient. They're just super weird about Aspinall. We know this already, and this only feeds into it. And the worst part about this is there's going to be reports on this all over the internet because of this report, and I don't think it's true. So that's the unfortunate part with everything that's going. Let's read a couple of the comments here before we get out of here. Even Kenny's like, you just be saying stuff. This guy saying he's officially left the UFC. Stop embarrassing yourself for engagement bait. Heavyweight division died. Put the fake news in the bag. And then this is only going to feed into the Aspinall haters that like are excited about this, not realizing that, like, let's say this is true. How are you excited about the heavyweight division right now? They're not replacing these guys at all. There's nothing in the works. There's not even like they don't even have Gable Steveson signed yet. So it's not even like you could be excited about the future of someone potentially coming and taking that throne right now. The only option that could be a little bit exciting is Pereira. And even then, there's no guarantee Pereira's going to have success at heavyweight. It's crazy. So, again, all these people taking it for face value. This drives me nuts because there are people doing good work that actually get paid to do this. And when stuff like this doesn't end up true, you get the fans talking about the media and saying, oh, the media is fake. They just make stuff up and they lump everyone together. That's like saying some comedian who does like a local open mic is the same level as like a Kevin Hart. It's not the same thing. So that stuff just drives me nuts. So yeah, we'll keep tabs on this, but I'm very, I feel very strongly about this, that I don't think this is true. I think if I could see at the very least, maybe them doing an interim title if Tom has told the UFC is going to be out for a while, but there's no reason to think that Aspinall is going to like leave and go box and all this stuff. Like, again, his dad made the comment. He shouldn't have made it. We all know this. It was just in bad taste before the big fight with Gahn, him mentioning that he wants to go boxing, but I don't think there's anything to this. And again, Peter Carroll has a great track record in this industry. I'll believe him over anyone else. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Part of the reason I want to get this video out is just to make sure that I'm not going to get asked about this. What do you think of Aspinall leaving? Nothing legit is saying that he's leaving. If we find other people, corroborating or not corroborate, agreeing with Ruben here, other media members that have similar sources that say this is a thing, then we can start having that conversation about this being legit. But one person does not mean this is actually happening. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.